Hi, good morning. My name is Mr. Robb, and this is a short introduction to higher philosophy. I hope you and your families are all well and safe, and that you're doing okay during lockdown. So numbers are quite big this year for higher philosophy. Generally, we sit about 70. We were a bit lower last year, and it seemed to be back about the 40, 50 kind of mark with it. So we're going to use this time between now and June just to familiarise yourself with it. That some of you will stay in the course, some of you will leave the course, some new people will join. So we're not going to start a lot of the formal stuff until August anyway, mainly so we don't have to catch people up. But what we will do is some of the background skills to try to help you along, that so that when we do get back in August, that the things are a bit easier for you and you find the content a bit more accessible to you. So I'll go over like what philosophy is and what the higher actually entails. This should work. So I was doing some work for higher. Oops, wrong bit. I was doing some work for higher RMPS and um, on evolution, as you can see on the screen just now there with it, and it's roughly about this near the end that the Homo heidelbergensis that evolutionary psychologists put this theory forward, saying that this is when early creatures started developing abstract thought. Obviously, there's no way for us to know that or to get that, but what we get from this is a slow, gradual change of our species over 4 million years. That if we accept evolution as truth, that is obviously. So we as humans have started putting ideas together for the better part of 50,000 years, that and these ideas have given, well, the phone, the computer, the everything I'm using, the knowledge to make my mug glass, to make the tea, to make the sugar, everything there is part of our cognitive, our minds evolving over time with it. And a nice little quote for you as well. Two of our ancestors stand in the field shouting about what they feel, what they want, and how they'll do it. This is where our civilization have ended if questions weren't asked. Questions allowed our species to clarify meaning, exemplify our points, justify our opinions, and encourage debate. This has driven human innovation as well as our understanding of the world we live in. That sentiment very much is at the heart of philosophy, where we have along the top we have early Neanderthal cavemen. We have one of the earliest paintings in recorded history, and the top right, this is the earliest human writing we have, a system where we use signs and symbols and lines to try and express our viewpoint, express our opinion, and more importantly, it's a letter of complaint, which I absolutely love. And this has led us to having remarkably informed teenagers like Greta, that us sitting at home watching Jeremy Corbyn. I know it's all moved on now, bear with me. And Boris Johnson kind of debating the issues of the day. And well, cats are just great. And if you don't like cats, then probably should just leave the course just now. And that makes us all a wee bit happier, kind of thing. But then we get to kind of closer to where we are in our time. This is about 500 BC. This is in the Sistine Chapel, and it's the Raphael's School of Philosophy, I want to say. I need to Google that. I'm not 100% sure. That doesn't matter anyway. So we have what Raphael depicted here is almost all philosophers up to the kind of the 1200s. In the middle, you've got Plato doing that and Aristotle doing that. And these two hand gestures very much depicted their own philosophical approach to it. And what we have is everyone sitting about debating. Raphael's in here as well. He is on the far right. You can see his head in between the guy with blue with the white hat on, kind of thing. Diogenes is the guy that was sitting on the steps. He's one of my favourite philosophers. Anyway, so what we have here is not just having thoughts and ideas, but we have a codified structure of how to approach thoughts and ideas, and how to engage with the world around about us, how to set up education, how to continue the next generation's thinking, getting better, etc., with them. So what then is philosophy, and what does it mean to philosophize? And that kind of question stumps a lot of people, especially philosophers. And it is a really hard question to answer, because it's not what it is, it's more what it's not. Philosophy isn't sitting and going, oh, maybe maybe the ones with schizophrenia see the world for what it is, and we're in the dream world. That's fine. That's a good idea, and it's a nice little thought to think about. But and there's philosophy in there, absolutely. But it's not what philosophy is. That at the same time as well, that some people kind of portray, especially in films, it's people sitting about, quite often under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and they're staring at the stars and their mind's blown by it, etc. That's again not what philosophy is. But it becomes really difficult to try and figure out what philosophy actually is, because it's what we refer to as a meta subject. It's a subject that comes before every other subject. And I'm hoping to convince you of that today and tomorrow, if you're not already, that philosophy gives humans the sandbox in which we can play about with ideas. It gives us the scope and language that we can use to debate and refine concepts that help as a society. One of my favourite philosophers, which I'm going to get you reviewed, is Bertrand Russell. In 1911, he published a 3-page chapter of a book called The Principles of Mathematics, where he felt, and everyone else agrees, that he'd proven 1 + 1 = 2. Now, that was 1911, and for the better part of, like tens of thousands of years, 1 + 1 = 2 is the foundation of all mathematics. If 1 + 1 did not equal 2, maths would not exist. Well, it would exist, but it just would be entirely wrong. Actually, if we were to able to show that 1 + 1 didn't equal 2, then a lot of mathematics that are built on this would simply crumble down. It's why maths is a brilliantly fascinating subject, and mainly because it's based on reason, and we'll get to that a wee bit later on in the course. Anyway, but that took thousands of years until someone actually proven it. That we just assumed that, and someone will always say to me, especially in third years, that well, of course 1 + 3 = 2. I can give you 3 ways in which 1 + 1 does not equal 2. I'm comfortable it does, but I can argue 3 different ways that it's not. 2 of them mathematically, and 1 of them just how we speak and how we converse. And I'm happy to go over that on a different day with it. But it's the driving of human innovation and the driving of human thought that, in my opinion, what philosophy is. Last year, the year before actually, I did one of the master's courses on philosophy of children, and I absolutely loved it, mainly because the lecturer, Claire Cassidy, started off by saying that can children think? And it's called Philosophy with Children, and then don't take any disrespect for that. I know you're kind of like 16 going on 20. So she said absolutely yes, that children can think. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I agree with that. Like, they speak to first years, great thoughts, etc. But when you go down the line with it, no, all the way down to they develop language, they can philosophize. No, I'm very firm. Mr. Ranajan, yes, he would be thumbs up for this one, but I'm skeptical and cynical about most things. But I was like, no, like my kid was 5 at the time, maybe 6. So I started asking him questions, like philosophical questions that I would ask you guys, 6 years, and the responses I got back were insightful and deep and profound. And I changed my mind completely. That yes, children absolutely can philosophize. And it was great, lovely to actually see that kind of level of thinking sort of happening with it. In S1. We were talking about life after death, and we're talking about near-death experiences. And one of the S1s, who's now in one of the S2s, said that if near-death experiences are real and some part of you leaves your body and comes back, and it comes back with the memories of the afterlife, then what that means is that your memories are linked to this spirit, soul, whatever we're going to call it, that your memories are entwined with that, because it's the only way you could bring it back. Because if your memories were just biological inside your mind and your spirit left it, well then when it come back, it wouldn't be aware of it. Not only that, but it wouldn't. Yeah. Anyway, dualism is complicated. And then I was like, wow, that's true actually. But then they had a further insight that if someone has Alzheimer's or dementia and they're slowly losing their memories, and since the memories are intertwined with the soul, spirit, whatever, when someone has this condition, they're losing their spirit, soul, and that's exceptional thinking by every single measure of what we think is good reasoning. But great to see. And then what seems to happen, we know why it happens, but what seems to happen is as you move through first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth year, is we call it rigidity, that mental rigidity. That so the pathways in your brain start to solidify a bit, more concrete towards you when you're about 14 years old, that and you start thinking about things more black and white, like yes it is and no it's not, and you lose sight of the kind of grey in between. And it's not an insult to you, and some of you this might not be true for you, sort of thing, but it's my experience, and it's Mr. Manachan's experience as well, that you become more formal. You think of things as in what the exam wants, and not so much the process of thinking about the topic itself. Anyway, what is philosophy? I learnt in this course that there's a philosopher called Anne Gazzard who I really enjoyed reading. That she said philosophy was three things. The first one is the search for meaning. It's quite often packaged as existentialism. You don't need any education. You don't need to go and study the greats or anything like this. It's just you sitting down thinking, what does it mean to exist? That if you have a pet and you ever sit and stare at your pet, you get the idea that there's things going on inside their head, that it can't simply be an instinct-driven thing. Otherwise, the creature it wouldn't patrol, it wouldn't sit and stare, it wouldn't kind of chase, it wouldn't play. That we get that there's more to animals than we kind of want to admit, because if we admit it, it adds, I know, a lot of emotional baggage and guilt towards what we do and how we react with animals as well, in my opinion at least. So existentialism is about us thinking about the world and what it means to be a human in this world. Like what are we? Why do we have this ability to have these thoughts inside our heads? That little voice you hear. My kid in the garden yesterday said, he said, I can't remember what we were talking about to start with, but he said that my brain told me that was the answer. I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, oh wait, sorry, it was 2 o'clock, and he said it'd be 2 hours to 4 o'clock. And he's like, yeah, my brain told me the answer. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, I think he's right. I think that if we reflect on how we come up with answers, it feels almost like your thinking and your consciousness is almost like, okay, I'm going to use my thinking in order to get an answer, ignoring the fact that they're probably the same thing. That so like it's this. What does it mean to have a mind, to think, etc. William James is a Christian apologist writer that he wrote a book called The Varieties of Religious Experience. It's not a religious quote, don't worry, but happiest people are those who have gone through the intense period of suffering marked by the search for deeper meaning in their lives. That surely we're all trying, especially in a time like this, we're trying to figure out, like, what do we want in life? What's important for us as a society? What's important for us as humans? What's important for us as creatures on this planet? Like, should we be looking after ourselves and only ourselves, or should we be kind of looking further afield at other people, other creatures, other planets that we don't know, basically? Second one, I'll put the so you can follow. The second one is the academic side of it, that learning through reading the greats, reading Descartes, reading Plato, reading Aristotle, Avicenna, Buddha, Confucius, that reading the great writers of our time, and trying to figure out what they mean, backing up their arguments, countering their arguments. That, yeah. We did a trip to Glasgow Uni, and we'll try and organise it again this year, and we had a panel of philosophers in front of us, and we asked them, what philosophical question keeps you awake at night? And one of them said about the history of philosophy, and he said about how that what was going round about his mind all the time was all these great philosophers, and what do we do with their works? Do we build on them? Do we reuse them? Should we be looking at Plato, or should we be looking at someone modern reinterpreting Plato? We don't look at Newton, we don't look at Newtonian physics, we use some of the equations, but we use physicists who are built on top of Plato, kind of thing. That and that's him. One of the other philosophers said that if you walk in a park and there's a child face down in a pond, that there's an urge for you to go to that child. The same way you drop a stone, the stone falls to the ground. There seems to be some sort of moral force that compels all of us to act. That what is that? And I think that, for me, when I did this course and this was on the screen, I thought that straight away, that because I think it highlights both philosophers. One trying to search for meaning, and the other philosopher trying to look at the academic side of philosophy, trying to look at the yeah, how did we get here, and all the great minds that kind of fed into it. Stephen Hawking famously said philosophy is dead. There was a lot of back and forth with this as well about why he's wrong. That Nigel Warburton is a fantastic writer. I'm going to put a bunch of links for him underneath it. Philosophy Bites and all the introduction series are all from him, and they're all phenomenal. He quit the Open University and he said, I'm getting out. For those of you left in, how can you call yourself philosophers? This isn't what philosophy is about. What he thought was modern philosophy was just reinterpreting or trying to find like, oh, the I could mean different things in a sentence here. He thought that as semantical nitpicking, and he didn't think that we were progressing in any kind of meaningful way with it. I agree with him wholeheartedly in this one, but only to an extent. I agree with that completely, but I don't like judging a bunch of people based on one person's statement. I don't know every philosopher in the world, and I don't know every academic philosopher in the world, so I'm not going to judge them based on the world. There are exceptional minds out there, but Nigel is right that he wanted to get out because what he felt what he was doing wasn't philosophy. It was just churning out courses that people weren't getting better for it. The third type of philosophy is practical philosophy, and this is what we'll be doing most of actually. That we actually use the principle of is questioning, and we use this questioning to question the boundaries around us. That we question what's in front of us, we question what the purpose of things are, we question where we want to go in life, etc. Reflective thinking is some of a meta discipline which makes possible the Elucidation? I should probably have learnt to pronounce this before I put it on, shouldn't I? And critical praise of virtually any problem from any discipline. But this is where I want you guys to be. This questioning things constantly. When a teacher stands in front of you and you say that, and they say like oh, this happened on this day, or that this is the truth, we accept it. But I know for an absolute fact, because I've asked you when you're in core, that have any of you sat there and heard a teacher speak and thought, that's not right? I'm wrong like 90% of the time, and I'm comfortable being wrong. I'm more concerned about people who claim this absolute truth, that claim that what they know and what they are saying is true, and there's nothing that anyone can say about it. Those people, in my very, very humble opinion, they're incredibly dangerous for society, because they're not willing to change. That none of us know anything, none of us know everything. That Socrates kind of like the Freudian slip there, Socratic slip, that none of us know everything, and to claim such is beyond arrogant. That we know bits of a whole, and I'm very comfortable knowing that. I'm very comfortable in that position, because it means that we're all in the same boat with it. We're all struggling in the dark to try and figure out what size and shape the room actually is. Now, when I say that, I'm being on all seriousness that my degree and my masters are in philosophy, but that I know the content better than you, and I know the material better than you, because I've studied it and I've taught it every year in Williamwood for, this is my 10th year coming up actually. But I don't philosophize better than you. I can't think better than you. And that's the unique thing about this course, that we will sit with the texts and we'll sit with the course material, and we will every year type up, I've got notes for you, Evan, don't worry about that, but we'll type up a fresh set of problems and notes from your words. And it's the thing that keeps me genuinely passionate, creates genuine passion and love for me of the subject, that we get new things every year from you, new strengths and weaknesses on the arguments that we've never considered from you. And that is exciting for me as a teacher, as a human, and as a philosopher. I like that. I like hearing your brand new ideas. So even though the course content, which I'm going to go into, might seem big and overwhelming, please don't worry too much about it. It's accessible, trust me. So this is where we are with it. So philosophy is the search between the academia and practical philosophy, and where we want to be is somewhere in the middle. Okay, right. So the course is in 3 units. First one is arguments in action. We hear things on TV constantly, people debating, people slagging each other off, people trying to make points, etc. The arguments in action is logic, where we look at everyday problems and arguments and we try and figure out what the person trying to say. So if I say all dogs have a tail, Charlie is a dog, the conclusion to that one has to be Charlie has a tail. Now, what I mean by that is that it's exclusive. that there is no way that Charlie could not have a tail. If I accept that all dogs have a tail, and I accept that Charlie is indeed a dog, then it is impossible for Charlie not to have a tail. I can obviously challenge the things that go into it, but or when people say Donald Trump is the worst president, with his orange face and his weird hair, that sure, like you get a lot of people agreeing with that as well, but that doesn't make him a terrible president. That if you remember Ed Miliband, he was slagged continually for how he was eating a bacon sandwich. Is that what we want? Like, should the prime minister be able to eat a bacon sandwich? Is that the criteria for it? Like, so that's what the argument selection course is about, looking at things that people say and why they're wrong or why they're right. Kind of. The second one is lovely because we have two classic texts. We have David Hume's An Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding, and we have René Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy. I did read Meditations on First Philosophy at uni in first year, and I did David Hume in third year. That great, phenomenal, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful texts. That Descartes believed that life is all a dream or be part of an evil demon, it's kind of manipulation. That something you'll be aware with this because you've done this in core. And David Hume took a more psychological approach to it, and David Hume is phenomenal text, Scottish philosopher as well. That it's a great bit of text. But the point of this, and the point of these two texts, is how do we know what we know is what we know? That when we claim things like the sky is blue, or that Paris is the capital of France, or today is Monday, how do we know that's true? That most of us would just say we don't need to because it's self-evident, sure, but that's not how anything works. That, or we can just go, well, my opinion is true, but again, that's not a thing. That we can't just say your opinion is somehow guarded and we can't attack your opinion because it's yours and I'm entitled to my opinion. It's always a phrase that worries me. I'm entitled to my opinion because are you entitled to an opinion? That anyway. With this, it's just because you say it's true doesn't mean it's true. If I go into the bank and say, "Hi, can I withdraw £1 million?" They go, "No, your balance is like £500-600." Like, "Oh no, my opinion it's £1 million." They're not going to give you the £1 million. I need 5 A's to be a doctor. Okay, well, I'd like to be a doctor, please. Oh, it says you get a D. In my opinion, you get 5 A's. It can't work that way. There can't be that subjective approach to knowledge. But at the same time, the opposite of that, objectivism, claims that there are fixed truths in the world. How do we get these? Where do they come from? And why are they there? Maths closer to this kind of thing. So that's a problem for us. And this is great bit of course. There's a lot of reading here, but it's fine. You'll like it. And the last unit is moral philosophy. So we look at what the difference between right and wrong is. Like when we say, when philosophers approach moral problems and we think about like abortion, capital punishment, euthanasia, these kind of like big moral issues that we don't really just want to know whether or not they're right and wrong. That's the practical side of it, and we'll get to that. Like that's the kind of not normative, the applied ethics part of it. But we need to go a step back. That how do we decide? What rules do we decide are right and wrong? Like how do we formulate this? Do we go with the Bible? The Bible says this, and this. It's fine. It's better than the other systems, kind of thing. That do we go to what humans create? So a law system. So like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Again, fine. That when we say it's good and bad, what do you mean by these words? Good, bad. Do we mean pleasure, pain? Do we mean happiness, sadness? What do we mean by it? That's the philosophical side of these problems. That trying to pick apart the things to understand what goes into the box that makes it. And that's the course. Arguments and action, knowledge and doubt, and moral philosophy. So we're about 23 minutes in now, and I thought this was going to be about 10 minutes, but I don't think I've ever kept anything to 10 minutes. So your task, the great Bertrand Russell, the man who proved that 1 + 1 = 2, that he's a phenomenal, beautiful writer, and I read him every single year with High Philosophy, and I love reading it. So I'm going to put on this post a PDF of chapter, can't remember, 13 or something like that, called The Problems of Philosophy. It's not, the book's called The Problems of Philosophy, the chapter's called The Value of Philosophy, sorry. So this is Bertrand Russell's take on what the good things about philosophy are. I'd like you to summarize it, and I'd like you to tell me what you think philosophy actually is. That's the first part. It's about 4 pages long, it's not long. But you have to read it a few times to try and kind of understand what he's trying to actually say with it. Second one, to be a bit easier for you, is The Boy Who Cried Wolf. So we're going to do quite a lot of kind of kid stories over the next couple of days. So The Boy Who Cried Wolf, you'll be familiar with it. If you've not, the story's there. I want you to read it, and I want you to pose 5 questions about the story. And I don't want them to be what was the boy's name? Where was the field? How many sheep were there? Why is that boy screaming at a wolf? Isn't the wolf going to see the boy and just go straight for the wolf? Okay, that's kind of closer to actually what I do want. Why is the rabbit there? Why is the rabbit being so sneaky? So I don't want factual questions about it. So see if we were doing like, if we were doing a, oh well, no, we are going to do that. If we're doing Little Red Riding Hood, so remember she goes into the forest, blah 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 blah. Can wolves talk? The wolf seems to communicate with Little Red Riding Hood. Why didn't Little Red Riding Hood notice the wolf was the grandma straight away? What is the key difference between humans and animals? I need you to get more philosophical with the questions. So pose 5 questions, if you can, about The Boy Who Cried Wolf. And then we'll use this we're going to do a couple of posts for you this week. We'll use this to kind of like start building you up and your questioning skills and your thinking skills and your thinking ability. So on that, I'll close. Thanks if you stuck in all the way through the 26 minutes. So Bertrand Russell summarise it, and then 5 questions for the value of philosophy, and then we'll do some more of these videos. Stay safe, I hope you're well, and take care. Bye-bye.